A busy airport terminal buzzed with activity as travelers hurried through the gleaming halls, rolling suitcases trailing behind them. The air carried the scent of coffee from a nearby café, mingling with the distant sound of boarding announcements over the loudspeaker. People were lost in their own worlds, checking their phones, rushing to gates, barely noticing what was happening around them. At Gate 23, however, a scene was unfolding that had begun to attract attention. A young mother, Caroline Parker, stood nervously near the check-in counter, rocking her crying infant in her arms. Her clothes were simple yet tidy. A casual blouse and jeans, her brown hair pulled into a messy bun. She looked exhausted, shifting her weight from foot to foot, trying to soothe her baby while balancing a small diaper bag on her shoulder. The two airline attendants behind the counter, both dressed in crisp navy blue uniforms, exchanged amused glances as they whispered to each other. The older one, a woman with short blonde hair, smirked and rolled her eyes, barely trying to hide her disdain. "Ma'am, we can't accommodate your situation right now," she said in a tone that was both dismissive and condescending. Caroline bit her lip. "I just need a little help. My baby's been fussy, and I'm worried about the flight. Is there any chance I could get a seat where—" The second airline worker, a younger man with neatly styled hair, let out a soft chuckle, shaking his head. "Lady, you should have thought about that before bringing a screaming baby on a flight." A few passengers nearby glanced over, some with mild curiosity, others looking away awkwardly, pretending not to notice. Caroline's cheeks flushed with embarrassment. She was just a mother trying to travel, doing her best, but now she felt like she was being put on trial in front of strangers. And then, a calm but firm voice cut through the tension. "Excuse me, is there a problem here?" The two airline workers froze, their smug expressions faltering as they turned toward the source of the voice. Standing just a few feet away, tall and poised, was Barron Trump, dressed in a tailored navy blazer over a fitted white shirt, with a sleek leather carry-on slung over his shoulder. He exuded quiet confidence. At 19 years old, he had grown into his height, standing well over 6 feet 7 inches. His sharp blue eyes locked onto the attendants with an intensity that made them instantly uncomfortable. The entire gate fell silent. People who had previously ignored the scene now turned to watch, realizing they were witnessing something unexpected. The older airline worker hesitated, forcing a tight smile. "Oh, no, sir. No problem at all." Barron's gaze didn't waver. "It sure looks like there's a problem." Caroline looked up, her eyes wide with disbelief. Was Barron Trump really standing up for her? The younger attendant cleared his throat. "Sir, we were just trying to explain to this passenger that she's a mother traveling alone with a baby and needs assistance." Barron interrupted smoothly. "Not ridicule." The woman behind the counter's face turned red, and a few murmurs rippled through the gathered passengers. Some even pulled out their phones, recording discreetly, sensing that something viral was about to happen. Caroline's baby let out a soft whimper, and she instinctively held him closer. Barron's eyes softened as he glanced at the child before turning back to the staff. "I assume your airline has a policy of courtesy toward passengers?" he asked, his voice even but firm. "Yes, of course," the woman stammered. "And do you treat all passengers like this?" Barron continued, "or just the ones who aren't in first class?" A few gasps rippled through the crowd. Even the other airline staff standing further away looked toward the confrontation, their expressions shifting from indifference to quiet discomfort. The older attendant scrambled to regain control of the situation. "We apologize if there was any misunderstanding, sir. We'll be happy to assist this passenger now." "Good," Barron said simply. He turned to Caroline, his tone shifting to gentle reassurance. "Do you need anything else?" She swallowed hard, still overwhelmed by everything that had just happened. I just need a little help getting settled. I don't want to disturb other passengers." Barron nodded. "I'll walk you to your seat myself." The crowd whispered in amazement as Barron Trump, the son of a former president, personally helped the struggling mother toward the boarding area. Even the flight crew straightened up, suddenly hyper-aware of the attention they were getting. As Caroline stepped onto the jet bridge, she turned to Barron with tears in her eyes. "Thank you. You didn't have to do that." Barron offered a small, easy smile. "Of course I did. Some people forget that kindness doesn't cost anything." And with that, he turned and disappeared into the terminal, leaving behind an entire airport full of stunned people who had just witnessed something they would never forget. Caroline took her seat near the front of the plane, still feeling the weight of what had just happened. Her heart was pounding, not from embarrassment anymore, but from sheer disbelief. Had Barron Trump really just stepped in to defend her? The other passengers were still murmuring, exchanging glances. Some of them had seen it unfold in real time, while others were now scrolling through their phones, watching the clips that had already started circulating on social media. Caroline rocked her baby gently, pressing a soft kiss to his forehead. She still felt shaken, but at least she knew she wasn't alone. The airline attendants, now noticeably flustered, suddenly became much more accommodating. A flight attendant with short brown hair approached her seat, her tone much softer than before. "Ma'am, we've arranged for you to have a row with an extra seat," she said with a forced smile. "So you and your baby will be more comfortable during the flight." Caroline blinked, realizing that they were now scrambling to make things right. Thank you," she murmured, adjusting her baby in her arms. The flight attendant avoided eye contact, quickly moving on to assist other passengers. Just then, a man in a business suit, seated across the aisle, leaned over slightly. "That was something else," he said, shaking his head with a slight chuckle. "You've got some guardian angel looking out for you today." Caroline let out a small breath. "I guess so." Meanwhile, back in the terminal, Barron Trump was walking briskly toward his own gate, his mind still running through what had just happened. He hadn't planned on stepping in, but the moment he saw the way the airline staff had been treating that woman, something in him refused to stay silent. As he reached the VIP lounge, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and saw a flood of notifications. His name was already trending on social media. Barron Trump defends a single mother at the airport. Class act. Barron Trump shuts down rude airline staff with pure class. The clip, recorded by multiple onlookers, was already spreading like wildfire. Inside the lounge, two men in business attire were standing by the coffee counter, scrolling through their phones. One of them let out a low whistle. "You see this? The kid just handled that situation better than most politicians would." "Yeah," the other agreed, shaking his head. "He's got something." Barron, hearing the murmurs but ignoring the attention, took a seat near the window. He wasn't thinking about social media, headlines, or the fact that the video was going viral. He was just thinking about the woman and her baby. He had grown up in wealth, privilege, and power, but his mother had always taught him that respect and kindness were worth more than money. And today he had proved it. As the flight took off, Caroline finally allowed herself to relax, leaning back in her seat. Her baby had drifted off to sleep in her arms, the soft hum of the plane's engines providing a soothing background noise. She exhaled slowly, still replaying the moment when Barron Trump had stepped in to defend her. She couldn't shake the feeling that she had just witnessed something rare, genuine kindness from someone who didn't have to care. Meanwhile, back at the airport, Barron sat quietly in the VIP lounge, scrolling through his phone. The video of the incident had now gone completely viral, and he was getting tagged in posts from all over the world. News outlets had already picked it up. Barron Trump defends a young mother from disrespectful airline staff. Class and grace. Barron Trump stands up for passenger in unforgettable moment. Is this the future of the Trump legacy? People were commenting nonstop, debating what had happened. He didn't have to step in. He could have ignored it like everyone else. But he chose to do something. Say what you want about his family, but this guy just did the right thing when no one else would. Barron sighed, locking his phone and looking out at the runway. He hadn't done it for attention. He hadn't done it for headlines. He had done it because it was the right thing to do. A voice broke his thoughts. Mr. Trump? He turned and saw a middle-aged man in a pilot's uniform standing nearby. He looked hesitant, as if unsure whether to speak. Yeah, Barron said, raising an eyebrow. The pilot cleared his throat. I just want to say, what you did back there, that was real leadership. Barron studied the man's face, noticing the sincerity in his eyes. Thanks, Barron said simply. The pilot nodded, then turned and walked away. Barron leaned back in his chair, arms folded. Maybe the world had noticed. Maybe it hadn't. But for that mother, for that baby, and for himself, he knew that in that moment he had made a difference. And that was all that mattered.